As the sun began to rise over the city, a soft golden glow illuminated the skyline, casting long shadows across the bustling streets. In the heart of this dynamic urban landscape lived a remarkable woman, Alexandra Hart. She was not just any ordinary citizen. She was the CEO of a thriving tech company, known for her innovative ideas and influential leadership. Yet beneath her confident exterior was a story of personal loss and resilience that few knew about. Alexandra's journey to the top was filled with challenges. Growing up in a modest neighborhood, she had faced hardships from an early age. Her mother, a single parent, worked multiple jobs to ensure that her daughter had opportunities for education and success. Despite their struggles, Alexandra cherished the moments spent with her mother, who instilled in her values of perseverance and hard work. As Alexandra excelled in school and later in her career, she always carried her mother's teachings close to her heart. However, life took a tragic turn when Alexandra was just 16. Her mother fell ill and passed away suddenly, leaving a void that would be hard to fill. For years, Alexandra buried herself in her studies and work, determined to make her mother proud. She often thought of the life they could have built together if tragedy hadn't struck. The pain of loss lingered, but with time, she transformed that pain into motivation, channeling it into her ambitions. Fast forward 20 years. Alexandra now stood at the pinnacle of her career, celebrated for her groundbreaking strategies and ability to inspire others. She had everything one could desire: accolades, wealth, and respect. However, one thing remained unresolved. She had never visited her mother's grave since that painful day 2 decades ago. The thought of facing her past overwhelmed her. Yet on this beautiful spring day, something stirred within Alexandra. Perhaps it was the reminder of an anniversary or merely a feeling deep in her heart. But she decided it was time. Time to reconnect with the roots she had long since left behind. As she drove through the winding roads leading to the cemetery, memories flooded back, both sweet and sorrowful. She remembered those long chats with her mother about dreams and aspirations, shared laughter over silly little things, and the comforting hugs during tough times. The closer she got to the cemetery, the more conflicted she felt. What would she say? What if the emotions became too much? Still, she pressed on. Arriving at the cemetery, Alexandra stepped out of her car and took a deep breath. The air was fresh, carrying with it the scent of blooming flowers and freshly cut grass. She walked towards the familiar section where her mother was laid to rest. With each step, a mix of anxiety and anticipation fluttered in her chest. The sight of her mother's gravestone, engraved with endearing words of love and remembrance, hit hard. Kneeling down beside it, Alexandra brushed away some leaves that had settled on the stone over the years. As she placed her hand on it gently, tears began to stream down her cheeks. In that moment, she let go of all the emotions she had bottled up inside, the frustration of not being able to say goodbye, the longing for her mother's advice during crucial moments in her life, and the overwhelming sadness that had crept in and out over the years. Just as she began to find solace in her memories, she noticed a figure nearby. A man was kneeling at a grave just a few feet away. He wore faded work clothes and had a worn expression on his face. Something about him seemed familiar, yet foreign. The man's shoulders shook slightly as he wept quietly. Alexandra could feel his sorrow echoing through the stillness of the cemetery. Intrigued and moved by his grief, much like her own, she stood up and glanced at his gravestone, and realized he too was mourning someone special. In this sacred space, where pain intertwined with memory, Fate brought them together. Two strangers bound by loss, yet united in their search for understanding. Little did they know that their meeting would transform both their lives in ways they never expected. Alexandra could sense a bond forming amidst their shared sorrow. This unexpected encounter would change everything. It would mark the beginning of healing not just for one, but for both. The single dad janitor, grieving for his loved one, and the successful CEO, yearning for her lost connection. As their paths intertwined at that moment, Alexandra felt a flicker of hope light up within her heart. A glimmer that perhaps healing could come from embracing vulnerability together. As Alexandra knelt beside her mother's gravestone, memories started to wash over her like waves at the shore. Each recollection brought a mixture of warmth and heartache as she closed her eyes and let herself be transported back to simpler times. She could almost hear her mother's laughter echoing in the air, as clear as if she were standing right there beside her. Her childhood home was filled with love and determination, despite the challenges they faced. Alexandra remembered the evenings spent in their small living room, where her mother would help her with homework after a long day at work. They would sit together on the couch, surrounded by textbooks and papers, while her mother patiently explained math problems or encouraged Alexandra to pursue her dreams. Those moments felt safe and nurturing. It was here that Alexandra learned the importance of hard work and resilience. One particular memory stood out vividly, like a cherished photograph framed in her mind. It was a chilly autumn day when they decided to visit the local park. The leaves were changing colors, painting the world in shades of orange, red, and gold. Her mother had brought along a picnic basket filled with sandwiches and homemade cookies. They spread out a blanket beneath an ancient oak tree and feasted while laughing about everything from schoolyard antics to their dreams for the future. "Always aim high, Alex," her mother had told her during that picnic. "You can achieve anything if you work hard enough." Alexandra could still hear the warmth in her voice as those words resonated within her heart. It was advice that propelled Alexandra forward through college and into her career. But life wasn't just filled with joyful memories. It also held its fair share of struggles. As a single parent, her mother often juggled long hours at work while trying to provide for them both. There were nights when Alexandra would stay awake, waiting for her mother to return home, anxious about what kind of day she'd had. Those experiences taught Alexandra empathy and understanding for others who face hardship. Another powerful memory flickered through her mind, the day she received an acceptance letter from a prestigious university. She could see herself bursting through the door after school, clutching the envelope close to her chest as adrenaline surged through her veins. Her mother had been in the kitchen preparing dinner when she heard Alexandra's excited footsteps. "What is it? What happened?" her mother had asked, wiping her hands on a dish towel and turning around with anticipation sparkling in her eyes. "I got accepted. I'm going to college," Alexandra exclaimed, unable to contain herself any longer. The look on her mother's face, pride mixed with joy, was one she would never forget. They hugged tightly, tears streaming down both their faces as they celebrated this milestone together. In that moment, all of their sacrifices felt worthwhile. Yet even amidst those joyful recollections lingered shadows of sadness. The realization that these precious moments were now memories imprinted in time. As she sat at the gravesite, feeling overwhelmed by emotions, she thought about how much she missed seeking advice from her mother during pivotal moments in life. Like negotiating deals at work or addressing challenges that required courage and wisdom. Alexandra recalled one particularly tough period when she faced skepticism about being a woman in a leadership role. At times, doubt crept into her mind. She'd think back to conversations with peers who questioned whether she belonged at such heights in business. During those moments of uncertainty, all she wanted was to hear her mother's calming voice, reassuring her that she was capable of overcoming any obstacle. Tears streamed down Alexandra's cheeks as she realized how deeply intertwined love and loss were in shaping who she had become today. A strong leader driven by ambition, but also guided by compassion for others who struggled like she once did. The cemetery felt like an echo chamber for both joy and pain, a place where memories mingled with unfulfilled wishes. As much as these thoughts brought heartache, they also illuminated the path forward. They reminded Alexandra of where she came from and what truly mattered: connection, love, and remembering those who shaped our lives. Just then, glancing back at the man nearby, the janitor lost in his own sorrow, Alexandra felt an unexpected sense of unity in their shared experiences of loss. At that moment, amidst tears for their loved ones, new pathways began to unfold before them both. A chance not only for healing, but also for finding strength together through shared memories of love, lost yet cherished forever. As she wiped away tears with the back of her hand, Alexandra took a deep breath. She understood now that while grief would always be part of life's journey, so too would be moments like these, where vulnerability opens doors to connection and healing among those who share similar paths through grief's intricate tapestry. With a deep breath, Alexandra stood up from her mother's gravestone, feeling the weight of her emotions blend with the cool breeze that swept through the cemetery. The vibrant colors around her, the pinks and whites of blooming flowers, the lush green grass glistening with morning dew, contrasted sharply with the grief she felt inside. She knew that this visit had been long overdue. Yet an underlying sense of apprehension lingered as she gathered herself to walk further into the cemetery. As she ventured deeper, Alexandra felt a mix of nostalgia and nervousness. The path was lined with well-kept gravestones, each telling its own silent story of love and loss. Some were adorned with fresh flowers, while others wore a cloak of neglect. She paused every now and then, admirably attentive to the stories engraved in stone. Dates long past, messages of remembrance, and expressions of love that transcended time. Her mind drifted back to what had led her here, to confront years of unresolved feelings about her mother's passing. Each step reminded her not only of the memories, but also of the burden she had carried alone for so many years. A part of her felt guilty for waiting so long to visit. Another part reminded her that life sometimes took unexpected turns, leading us away from our roots. She finally arrived at a quiet section where older trees provided gentle shade, dappled sunlight playing across multiple stones. It was peaceful here, an oasis away from the noise of the city. Each whisper of wind through the leaves seemed to echo her mother's laughter, urging her to embrace this healing moment fully. Before she could reach her mother's grave again, something caught her eye. A nearby bench under a large oak tree drew her attention for an instant. It was weathered yet sturdy, having witnessed countless moments similar to hers, people coming and going, grieving and remembering. For a brief moment, Alexandra imagined herself sitting there in conversation with someone who understood her journey. As she walked closer to the bench, anxiety began creeping in once more. What would she say? How could she sum up 20 years of longing in just a few heartfelt words? She recalled all. Those times when life got busy. Meetings, decisions, and expectations that pushed thoughts of loss aside. Now that she was finally on the verge of confronting those feelings head-on, with no distractions or deadlines, the gravity felt overwhelming. Taking a seat on the bench instead, Alexandra watched as birds danced above and squirrels scampered about in their timeless chase for acorns beneath the trees. It was a moment meant for reflection, a moment she had thought would bring clarity, but now brought on feelings she wasn't entirely ready to face. Suddenly, silhouettes emerged down the path. Two figures were walking toward her, their silhouettes growing clearer as they approached. They appeared to be a father and son. The little boy skipped ahead while his father followed closely behind him. As they passed by one another, a gentle exchange occurred. "Look at that big tree," exclaimed the boy with sparkling eyes. The simple joy radiating from them captivated Alexandra briefly. A reminder that even amidst pain, life still blossomed in other forms. Yet just as quickly as they passed by each other, a somber realization swept over Alexandra. Laughter continued even on days filled with sorrow. Determined to leave behind her lingering doubts and fears about facing her mother's grave again, she stood up from the bench, taking one last deep breath to steady herself. Each stride toward her mother's side felt heavier yet lighter at once. Each step echoed like a heartbeat coaxing her forward. At last, before reaching her mother's stone again, Alexandra noticed something startling, a figure already kneeling beside the grave. Her heart stopped for just an instant as curiosity took over. Who could it be? The man wore faded work clothes and slightly rumpled shoes that hinted at diligent labor, not unlike those countless days spent by her mother as a single parent working tirelessly to make ends meet. Alexandra took a cautious step closer, the sight before her twisted emotions within her chest yet again. The man's shoulders shook softly as he wept silently near the grave, and just beyond him lay his own sorrow. In that moment, descriptions fell away. They were two souls grieving side by side amidst shared space filled with love lost. For both individuals seated so close yet so distant, Alexandra sensed some invisible connection forming between them, an understanding that perhaps sometimes shared mourning fosters empathy beyond words. As Alexandra quietly observed this stranger, immersed in emotion similar to hers at such critical junctures in life, a chance encounter became possible only through vulnerability in grief. Inhaling hope, even amidst sadness, filled this sacred place, alive somehow, previously absent within herself. Here was an unexpected turn, an invitation from life itself. Through pain lies possibility for profound connection, if only vulnerability permits. As Alexandra drew closer to the grave, her heart raced. The sight of the man kneeling there, his shoulders shaking with quiet sobs, made her pause. He looked like he was carrying a heavy burden, one that resonated deeply within her own heart. She had expected to find solitude at her mother's grave, a private moment with her memories. Yet here was this stranger sharing in the universal experience of loss. His faded work clothes and scuffed shoes told a story of a life filled with hard work. There was something incredibly poignant about him being there, taking time out of his day to mourn. As she hesitated, another wave of emotion surged through her. It was a feeling of connection that transcended words, a silent understanding between two grieving souls. "Excuse me," Alexandra spoke softly as she approached. The man looked up, startled at first, his eyes rimmed with tears that glistened in the sunlight. There was an intensity in his gaze, a mixture of surprise and vulnerability as he took in her presence. I'm sorry," he stammered, quickly wiping his cheeks with the back of his hand. "I didn't mean to intrude." "No, you're not intruding. It's okay," she replied gently. "I was just surprised to see someone else here." He nodded, looking down at the gravestone again, before meeting her gaze once more, almost as if gauging what to share. "I come here often," he said finally. "Today is, well, it's been a rough one." He swallowed hard, the weight of his words hanging between them like a fragile thread. "I understand," Alexandra said, her voice barely above a whisper. "I'm here for my mother. It's been 20 years since I last visited." The janitor's expression softened at her confession. "It's hard, isn't it? You think you're ready to face everything, and then it hits you all over again." He shared with a weary smile that barely masked the sorrow behind it. "Yeah," Alexandra agreed, her heart aching for this man who stood before her. A stranger, yet someone who understood grief deeply. "It feels like I've been carrying this weight alone for so long." "My name is Jake," he introduced himself after a brief silence, extending his hand. Alexandra shook it firmly, feeling an unexpected warmth from this simple gesture. "Alexandra," she replied, sensing a strange comfort in their exchange. "What brings you here today?" "My mom passed away not too long ago," Jake confessed, his voice thick with emotion. "I come here to talk to her and remember the good times we had." His eyes glistened with unshed tears as he spoke about his mother, the laughter they shared, the lessons she taught him, connecting deeply with Alexandra's own memories. "I can relate," Alexandra said softly, her heart swelling with empathy for this man who had experienced similar loss. "My mother meant everything to me. She was my rock." In that moment, they were two souls intertwined by grief, sharing stories of love lost, yet still echoing in their hearts. Jake described how he had struggled as a single dad after losing his own mother, and how the weight of responsibility often felt overwhelming. Alexandra listened intently as he spoke about finding solace in moments spent with his young son while balancing the pain of absence. "What about you? How have you coped?" Jake asked genuinely as they both took a seat on the bench nearby, finding comfort in each other's presence amid the somber surroundings. "I've thrown myself into work," she admitted with a sigh. "But sometimes that just makes me feel more disconnected from everything else, like I'm running away from my feelings." Jake nodded knowingly, understanding how easy it was to avoid confronting pain when life demanded so much from them both. Sometimes facing those feelings is important, even if it hurts. "It's part of healing," he said thoughtfully. As they exchanged stories about their mothers, time seemed to blur around them. Strangers transformed into confidants through shared vulnerability. Each laugh and tear felt like an affirmation that even amid sorrow, connection could flourish if one allowed it. With each word spoken between them came a breath of hope. Perhaps healing didn't have to come alone, but could emerge through empathy and understanding shared among kindred spirits facing similar journeys through grief. Alexandra marveled at how unexpectedly rich this encounter had become. How sharing their vulnerabilities created space for healing not just for herself, but for Jake as well. It reminded her that they were never truly alone in their experiences. The tapestry of life wove threads of connection that could bind people together even in their darkest moments. As they continued talking beneath the sheltering trees, Alexandra felt lighter than she had in years. A spark ignited within her soul as hope intertwined with sorrow, revealing paths toward healing that had previously remained hidden in shadows. As the conversation between Alexandra and Jake deepened, they found themselves enveloped in an atmosphere that felt both sacred and transformative. Surrounded by the whispering trees and the fragrant blooms of spring, their shared grief became a bridge that connected two souls navigating similarly painful journeys. "I never expected to find anyone else here today," Alexandra said, her voice steady despite the vulnerability flooding through her. It feels comforting somehow, sharing this moment with you. Jake nodded, wiping away fresh tears with the back of his hand. I felt the same way at first. It's odd how two strangers can find solace in one another at a place like this. He gestured toward the gravestone behind him. My mom always said that talking about our feelings is important, but I never really understood it until now. Right? Alexandra replied, feeling a rush of empathy for him. For years, I felt like I had to keep my emotions bottled up. The weight of work and life responsibilities made it tough to process everything. She paused, contemplating her own journey. But being here today, it reminds me that I'm not alone in this struggle. Jake smiled softly, appreciating her honesty. Yeah, it's easy to forget that we're all going through something, battling our private wars while wearing smiles for the world to see. The realization hung in the air like a sweet perfume. Life could be beautiful yet unbearably heavy at times. Together, they laughed gently as they recounted little moments from their mothers' lives. Quirky habits they adored and lessons learned that shaped who they were today. Alexandra shared how her mother made every holiday special despite their limited resources, how she would bake cookies shaped like Christmas trees or pumpkins and decorate them with care. The laughter echoed between them like music as they reminisced about those precious moments of joy against a backdrop of struggle. In return, Jake unveiled stories about his mother's unwavering support during his childhood dreams. How she encouraged him to pursue art even when others doubted his talent. She would tell me, he emphasized passionately, that creativity is a gift meant to be shared with the world. Alexandra listened intently. There was beauty in their mutual expressions of love for their mothers. It was as if each anecdote breathed life into their memories once more, keeping those bonds alive even in loss. Yet amid nostalgia lingered a sense of heaviness, a reminder that these cherished figures were no longer there to share new experiences or offer guidance during turbulent times. The rawness of grief was interlaced with gratitude for having known such profound love. What do you think your mom would say if she saw you now? Jake asked suddenly, breaking through Alexandra's reverie. She considered his question thoughtfully before smiling softly. I think she'd be proud, but maybe also push me to embrace my emotions more openly. Not just for my sake, but for those around me. Jake nodded vigorously in agreement. That sounds just like my mom too. She would tell me not to shy away from vulnerability. It's a strength rather than a weakness. Their conversation flowed effortlessly as they ventured deeper into their hearts' uncharted territories. The truths untold and feelings left unexpressed over time began unraveling like threads from an old tapestry. I often feel guilty, Alexandra admitted quietly, staring down at her hands clasped together on her lap. Guilty for not visiting sooner or for not reaching out about my feelings when I needed support. Jake's expression shifted to one of understanding as he leaned forward slightly. I get that. Society has this idea that we should just tough it out when faced with grief. He replied softly. But the truth is, we shouldn't bear our burdens alone if we don't have to. In that moment, both realized how powerful connection could be. Even brief encounters could foster healing where loneliness once resided. Lifting each other up became almost instinctual. Words transformed into lifelines floating across painful waters. Despite knowing their paths might diverge after this day, returning to separate lives dictated by responsibilities, they completed something essential by standing together at those gravesides. acknowledgement and validation of loss experienced by each. As they continued sharing stories beneath branches overhead, swaying gently in rhythm with springtime breezes drifting through flowers blooming nearby, a sense of purpose blossomed inside both Alexandra and Jake. A budding awareness that empathy and understanding pave paths toward healing amidst sorrow's intricate maze. By embracing shared grief so openly today, their hearts interwoven within each thread, laid, a flicker ignited where hope had been long diminished. Reminding them both through vulnerability lies strength worth uncovering. And perhaps new friendships forged, even amid loss, became powerful catalysts for growth. As Alexandra and Jake continued their exchange, the atmosphere around them shifted from one of sorrow to an uplifting camaraderie that hinted at healing. Each shared story revealed layers of common ground that they never expected to uncover. They realized that their experiences weren't just individual struggles, but reflections of universal themes: love, loss, and resilience. I knew my mother was proud of me, Jake shared, his eyes lighting up for a moment as he spoke about her. But I also knew how hard she worked to get me where I am today. It makes me want to honor her memory by being the best dad I can for my son. Alexandra nodded in understanding. I feel the same way. My mom worked tirelessly for us too, so her sacrifices won't be forgotten. Whenever I'm working late or stressed about big decisions, I think about what she would have said. I want to make her proud. Their conversation danced back and forth between memories that were both heartwarming and bittersweet. Jake described how he now tells his son stories about his grandmother, keeping her spirit alive in small yet meaningful ways. I want him to know that she was real and that she loved him even though they never met, he intoned with emotion. That's beautiful, Alexandra replied, feeling warmth splash against her heart. Keeping those stories alive is a wonderful gift. She then revealed how she curated a scrapbook of memories dedicated to her mother, filled with handwritten notes and photos from important life events, the milestones she wished her mother could have witnessed firsthand. The act of remembering became a way to keep the bond alive despite the passage of time. It helps me, Alexandra continued, her eyes glistening with unshed tears. When I feel lost or need her advice, I look back at what she wrote or the little notes she'd left for me over the years. The act of preserving those fragments made Jake nod earnestly in recognition. He saw the power in both their coping methods, a deliberate effort to reclaim love and guidance from people they admired most. In that moment, they began to share ideas on how to navigate life after loss, discussing strategies to incorporate their mother's teachings into their daily routines. Alone together, but fortified by the stories brought forth through layers of grief, they felt a tinge of resolve that hadn't been there before. What about when the tough days hit? How do you handle it? Jake inquired with genuine interest, eager to hear how she coped amidst moments of vulnerability. I try to find solace in nature, Alexandra admitted with a contemplative tone. Sometimes I take long walks through parks or gardening. It reminds me how beautiful life can still be, even when everything feels heavy. Jake smiled at her response, appreciating the perspective of intertwining peace with nature among challenging times. That's wise. I often take my son out for hikes or bike rides. We talk about everything while surrounded by trees and lakes. It helps us both clear our minds. Their laughter filled spaces between their words, lightening hearts worn heavy by sorrow, but still charged with an underlying sense of strength emerging from shared struggles. They painted pictures together, vivid scenes ignited from cherished memories that kept them grounded even while tethered in loss. As their stories unfolded one after another, layers gradually peeling back, they found deeper connections threading through each conversation like a tapestry, unveiling its complexity over time. I think we often forget how much we need people like each other in these moments, Alexandra remarked softly, as sunlight filtered through the leaves above them, casting shadows on the ground like whispers against enduring grief. Absolutely, Jake replied thoughtfully, while reflecting on this unique bond created through shared grief, an understanding gained through inherent vulnerability, opened doors for so much more than mere consolation. It became a lifeline where strength thrived plainly amid pain. Through mutual courage displayed in storytelling, along with reassurances exchanged during those tender moments filled only with honesty and truth, something transformative emerged. A newfound commitment towards honoring their mother's legacies in ways pivotal to uplift not only themselves, but also countless others navigating similar paths toward healing. In this unexpected encounter blossomed clarity. Evidence showed that connection itself became not merely a means of consolation, but rather the essence shaping future journeys as they navigated through life's harsh realities, without ever truly feeling alone, even amidst struggles etched deeper than memories they'd sought solace within. So, as they stood together, laughing softly beneath branches tangling overhead, the world beyond faded out of mind envelopment. Their spirits ignited hope, renewed, and empathy shared, propelled upward toward brighter tomorrows that allowed both paths stitched together momentarily would continue holding firmly all fragments discovered in one fateful afternoon spent together amongst trees, whispering loved ones' names, circling gracefully overhead. As the sun began to dip lower in the sky, casting a warm golden hue over the cemetery, Alexandra and Jake continued to share their thoughts and reflections on their lives. The atmosphere felt charged with an electric sense of understanding, as if the universe conspired to remind them both of the lessons learned through grief and love. I've learned that life is really about the people we surround ourselves with, Jake said thoughtfully, glancing around at the gravestones. Losing my mom made me realize how important it is to cherish every moment with my son. I want him to know he's loved, just like I was. Alexandra nodded, feeling a wave of agreement wash over her. That resonates with me so much. After my mother passed, I became so focused on my career that I sometimes forgot to appreciate the little things. Time with family, genuine conversations, laughter. It's easy to get caught up in what you think you need to achieve. Their conversation shifted into a deeper exploration of how loss had redefined their perspectives on life. The quiet moments of reflection became a space for revelation, where they dissected the lessons learned from their mother's teachings and how these lessons shaped their choices today. I remember my mom always saying, "Life is too short to hold grudges," Jake reflected, a gentle smile breaking across his face. She taught me that forgiveness is for ourselves, not just for others. That's so true, Alexandra replied, feeling her heart swell with emotion. I struggled with forgiveness for a long time, especially when it came to my work relationships. But I've come to understand that holding on to anger only weighs us down. Jake agreed wholeheartedly, sharing how he had reconciled with old friends after losing his mother. I realized that life is unpredictable, and it's better to mend broken bonds than let them linger in silence. My mom would have wanted that for me. In this exchange of wisdom, they began to explore the importance of vulnerability, a theme that had quietly woven its way through their conversation since they met. Being vulnerable can feel scary, Alexandra admitted, her voice softening as she reflected on her own journey. but I've found that it opens doors to deeper connections. This moment with you, it's unexpected, yet healing." "Exactly," Jake replied earnestly. "It's like we're both learning together how to embrace our emotions instead of pushing them aside. Sharing grief has brought us closer and reminded me that there's strength in being open." Their discussions flowed naturally as they delved into more life lessons, how resilience can be cultivated through adversity, and how every challenge faced can lead to growth. With each shared experience, they felt as if they were peeling back layers of themselves previously untouched by genuine connection. "I've also learned about gratitude," Alexandra added, her eyes sparkling with newfound insight. "In moments of despair, it can be hard to see the silver lining. But practicing gratitude has helped me focus on the positive aspects of my life, even when things seem bleak." Jake smiled knowingly. "My mom used to write down 3 things she was thankful for every night before bed. I've started doing that with my son. It's become our little ritual." "That's a lovely way to honor her memory," Alexandra said, feeling inspired by his commitment to keep his mother's spirit alive through positive practices. As they talked about these lessons learned through hardship and loss, a sense of camaraderie blossomed between them, one built on empathy and mutual understanding. They exchanged contact information before parting ways, promising to stay connected despite returning to their separate lives. "I'm so grateful for this chance encounter," Alexandra said sincerely, her heart filled with warmth at the thought of forming this new bond amidst their shared grief. "I didn't expect to meet someone who understands what I'm going through." "Neither did I," Jake replied with a smile. "But I believe this is just the beginning of something meaningful for both of us." As they prepared to leave the cemetery, Alexandra looked back at her mother's grave one last time, a place now infused with new memories and lessons learned through connection and vulnerability. She felt lighter than she had in years, ready to carry forward the wisdom gained from this unexpected encounter. With renewed hope ignited within her soul, she stepped away from the past and toward a future where her mother's spirit continued to guide her, where love and connection would remain constants amid life's inevitable challenges. Reflecting on the day's events, Alexandra understood that healing often comes in unexpected forms, sometimes through shared stories and life lessons exchanged between two souls walking similar paths. A reminder that, even in loss, new beginnings could blossom beautifully amid sorrow's intricate tapestry. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Alexandra and Jake realized it was time to part ways. The solemn atmosphere of the cemetery had transformed into a powerful moment of connection, one that neither of them would forget easily. They stood together, surrounded by the quiet whispers of nature, feeling lighter yet more grounded after their heartfelt exchange. "I really appreciate this time we've spent together," Alexandra said, her voice filled with warmth. "Meeting you was unexpected, but so meaningful." Jake smiled, his expression reflecting the same sentiment. "I feel the same way. It's rare to find someone who understands the weight of this kind of loss. I'm thankful for the chance to talk about our mothers and what they meant to us." A soft breeze stirred, rustling leaves around them as they glanced back at their respective loved ones' graves. In those moments of stillness, both felt a profound sense of gratitude for their experiences, even amidst the sadness. They had come to learn that pain could pave the way for new perspectives. "Before I go," Jake said, taking a deep breath as he mustered a thought that had been swirling in his mind, I want to share something that's helped me cope." He paused for effect, looking Alex directly in the eyes. "It's about finding ways to celebrate their memory, not just in sorrow, but in joy. Like special days we honor together with our families and nurturing their legacy through acts of love." Alexandra nodded thoughtfully. "That resonates deeply. I've been meaning to create new traditions in memory of my mom. Perhaps something easy like cooking her favorite meals or writing letters to her on significant dates." "Exactly," Jake exclaimed, excitement flickering in his eyes. "It's all about keeping that spirit alive, like inviting her presence into our routines, even if she's not here physically." They exchanged ideas for how to embed those memories into their daily lives, planting flowers dedicated to their mothers in gardens, or lighting candles on special occasions as tribute, a symbolic way to remind themselves that love transcends physical absence. "I think this visit has shifted my perspective," said Alexandra slowly, reflecting on everything they had shared during their time together. "Instead of viewing my mother's absence as overpowering grief, I can cherish what she taught me and use it to inspire how I live my life now." That shift feels liberating. Jake's face brightened at her words, feeling a sense of camaraderie blossom between them, despite the difficulty surrounding their discussions on grief. "I've found strength in knowing my mom is a part of me and will always be there throughout my life journey," he admitted earnestly. As they prepared to leave, each clutched an intangible gift forged through connection, the knowledge that grieving did not have to be an isolating experience, but rather a path toward building something remarkable from shared pain. "I really hope we can stay in touch," Jake suggested, pulling out his phone as Alexandra grabbed hers in response. "Absolutely. Let's check in with each other occasionally. It would mean a lot," she replied with sincerity while entering her contact details. Once exchanged, they hesitated briefly before saying goodbye, the moment hanging delicately between them, like a breath held long enough to acknowledge what had transpired without rushing away from it too quickly. Just before stepping away from each other altogether, Jake turned back one last time and added quietly, "Remember, we're both stronger than we think. Grief doesn't define us. How we choose to honor those we've lost is what truly matters." Those words lingered as Alexandra smiled warmly at him once more. She felt invigorated by newfound purpose coursing through her veins, encouraged not only by his bravery, but also by their shared pledge toward living with intention and gratitude. After taking one last look at the grave sites, the sacred spaces now imbued with emotion-filled memories, they walked away hand in hand, with renewed determination on separate paths, yet forever changed by frequencies felt today. Amidst interwoven tales spun through shared experiences, forged strong under exquisite layers, revealing vulnerability and hope. Intertwined beautifully, no longer encumbered solely by burdens borne alone. With every step away from the cemetery, each beat echoing forward toward brighter tomorrows. The warmth lingering inside reminded Alexandra that true healing often invites unexpected connections from vulnerability, discovered along paths previously weighed down heavy by solitude, where light began breaking free within life's intricate dance forward. As Alexandra drove away from the cemetery, the sun dipped below the horizon, casting a warm glow across the evening sky. The colors reminded her of the vibrant conversations she had shared with Jake, and she felt a sense of peace enveloping her. The day had been unexpectedly transformative, shedding light on emotions she had long kept hidden. Reflecting on her visit, she recalled the weight of emotions she had carried for so many years. the grief that had morphed into a numbness she didn't know how to shake off. But today, in that sacred space, she had confronted those feelings head-on, sharing them with someone who understood the depth of her pain. It was liberating to be vulnerable, and the connection they forged felt like a balm to her heart. Alexandra thought about the lessons she had learned about honoring her mother's memory. The idea of creating new traditions filled her with hope. Cooking her mother's favorite meals, lighting candles on special occasions, or writing letters were ways she could keep her spirit alive. These practices would not only honor her mother, but also allow her to weave her mother's teachings into the fabric of her daily life. "I can do this," she murmured to herself, feeling a surge of empowerment. The conversation with Jake had illuminated paths toward healing she hadn't considered before. She realized that by choosing to celebrate her mother's life, rather than dwell solely on her absence, she could transform her grief into something beautiful and meaningful. As she navigated through the familiar streets leading back home, memories of her childhood flooded her mind. The laughter shared over family dinners, the comforting hugs during tough times, and the lessons imparted during late-night talks all replayed in vivid detail. These moments contributed to who she was today, a successful CEO driven by ambition, yet grounded in love and compassion. The image of Jake also lingered in her thoughts. His openness about his own grief and his determination to celebrate his mother's legacy inspired her. It was remarkable how two strangers could connect so deeply over shared sorrow, transforming that pain into a source of strength. She felt grateful for his willingness to be vulnerable and for the understanding they had cultivated in such a short time. Arriving home, Alexandra felt a bittersweet mix of emotions. The house seemed eerily quiet without her mother's presence. Yet there was also an underlying warmth, a sense of renewed purpose ignited within her. She stepped inside, ready to embrace this new chapter in her life. She walked into the kitchen, where her mother used to bake cookies on weekends. The memories flooded back like a wave, sweet scents wafting through the air, laughter filling every corner. With a smile on her face, Alexandra decided to start a new tradition right then and there. She gathered ingredients and began to bake cookies just as her mother used to. As she mixed flour and sugar, memories danced around her like fireflies in the twilight. Each ingredient became a tribute. Every stir represented love and connection that transcended time. She hummed softly to herself, imagining what her mother might say about her baking skills or how they would joke about creating the perfect cookie recipe together. Once the cookies were ready, Alexandra placed them on a plate and lit a candle on the dining table. Drawing a deep breath, she whispered a heartfelt message to her mother, expressing gratitude for everything learned and experienced together. "I'll carry you with me always," she promised softly. In that moment, Alexandra realized that healing wasn't just about moving forward. It was also about embracing the past while carving out space for joy in the present. Her mother would always be a part of her journey, guiding her through challenges and celebrating victories alongside her. As night fell and stars twinkled overhead, Alexandra felt lighter than she had in years. The burdens of grief began to lift as hope sprung forth from vulnerability, a promise that life could continue with love at its core. Inspired by both Jake's words and her own resolve, she knew that each new day would bring opportunities for connection, healing, and celebration. With renewed determination coursing through her veins, Alexandra understood that while loss was an inevitable part of life, so too was love, a force capable of transforming pain into strength and opening doors to new beginnings woven beautifully together in life's intricate tapestry. As Alexandra settled into her evening routine at home, The feelings from her visit to the cemetery continued to resonate within her. The warmth of the sun had faded, giving way to a cool evening breeze. But the emotional glow from her encounter with Jake lingered. She found herself reflecting on how that day had not only allowed her to confront her grief, but also inspired her to embrace life anew. Sitting at her kitchen table, she looked around the room, taking in the small details that had once felt mundane. The cookbooks lining the shelves, the family photos capturing moments of laughter, and the subtle scents lingering in the air all reminded her of her mother's presence. Each object held a story, and she realized how precious those memories truly were. Today was about more than just remembering, she thought to herself. It was a celebration of love. The realization sparked a sense of joy within her. She knew that she could honor her mother's legacy while living fully in the present. With newfound determination, Alexandra retrieved a blank notebook from her desk drawer. She envisioned it as a journal for documenting thoughts and memories, one that would serve as both a tribute to her mother and a guide for navigating life's complexities. As she began writing, she poured out her feelings about their relationship, sharing stories of lessons learned and moments that shaped who she had become. "Thank you for teaching me resilience," she wrote, recalling times when her mother faced challenges with grace. "Thank you for showing me the importance of love and connection." The act of writing turned into a cathartic release, allowing her to reflect on how those lessons had influenced her career and personal life. Alexandra's thoughts drifted back to Jake and their conversation about creating new traditions. She resolved to incorporate his ideas into her own practices, celebrating special occasions with family and friends, cooking her mother's favorite recipes, and taking time to reflect on what gratitude meant in her life. Those small acts would help keep her mother's memory alive in tangible ways. That night, as she prepared for bed, Alexandra felt lighter than she had in years. She recognized that grief was a natural part of life. It could coexist with love and joy rather than overshadow them. With each passing moment, she sensed a shift within, a growing belief that healing was not linear nor confined to sorrow alone. The next day brought a fresh perspective. She arrived at work with a renewed energy, ready to tackle challenges with an open heart rather than an overwhelmed mind. The discussions with colleagues felt richer. Connections deepened as she engaged more authentically, sharing parts of herself that had previously been guarded due to fears of vulnerability. During a meeting with her team later that week, Alexandra shared reflections about their recent company retreat, the unexpected bonding experiences they had collectively faced. "It reminded me how crucial it is to build connections," she stated firmly. "We need to support one another in both our professional lives and personal journeys." Her words resonated deeply with her team, sparking discussions about their own challenges. By being open about her vulnerabilities, Alexandra encouraged others to share their stories too. A ripple effect created through one woman's decision to embrace vulnerability and connection. Weeks went by with each day, becoming a little brighter as Alexandra continued incorporating rituals honoring her mother into her life. She planted flowers in their garden, dedicated to her memory. Each bloom symbolized love, strength, and resilience, the qualities that defined both women. Additionally, she reached out to Jake periodically, updating him on the new traditions she was implementing and expressing gratitude for their brief yet impactful encounter. The bond they forged through shared grief blossomed into friendship, proof that even during painful moments, kindness could spring forth unexpectedly. As time passed, Alexandra reflected on how much had changed since that pivotal day at the cemetery. Grief no longer felt like an anchor weighing her down. Instead, It became a catalyst for growth and transformation. She understood now that while loss would always be part of life's journey, including its shadows, love remained an enduring force capable of guiding and uplifting. Ultimately, Alexandra learned that honoring those we have lost can illuminate our paths forward, enriching our lives with depth beyond measure, while allowing us to create new beginnings forged from love's beautiful tapestry, woven intricately through shared experiences. Reminders that ultimately connect us all amid life's intricate dance between sorrow and joy.